Hello, I'm back to review the new movie from Andrew Plush. This movie is actually the final movie in the FNAF Plush series. Remnant War released a few weeks ago and I finally got around to watching it this week. It seems to be getting good reception and is being well received from what I've seen, so I was excited to dive in. Now before I get into this review, let me go over some thoughts and expectations I had before watching this movie. Obviously I knew this was the final movie in the saga, and I was prepared for a big conclusion. I was not expecting to get a 3-hour movie. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the second movie, and it seems that a lot of Andrew fans loved it too. I did have a complaint that it was a little dragged on in some parts, and then the final battle with Springtrap was too short. So when I saw the runtime for this movie, I got a little worried that there would be too much filler. It wasn't a big deal though. I thought to myself, if he could pull off a thrilling and entertaining 3-hour conclusion, then that's a win in my book. Anyways, here's the review. The movie starts off with a beautiful lake scenery and Freddy sitting on a dock next to it. Him and Vanny talk about a big fight coming up. Not much context, but I think this was a good scene to set the mood off for the movie. Then we see the guys from the Fingirls. We see them a year ago right after the Fazbears went to fight Springtrap. These guys always uninterested me until this movie. Besides the group leader Julio, this little scammers club just didn't catch my interest in the second movie. Although they had some entertaining parts in the Fingirls, I just wasn't interested to see them again. But long story short, they come to assume the Fazbears lost their battle, so they set out to go look for them. But a monster almost kills Mr. Sharky, so they call it off. Honestly, just by the first 10 minutes with these guys, they were already growing on me. I think they were great additions to this movie. Immediately after, we see exactly what is happening after the last episode. So basically, this whole movie happened because Springtrap froze up seeing the Fazbears alive. I'm not mad at it, but it just looks bad on Springtrap. Also, Toy Freddy randomly pussies out and goes back to his homeless shelter out of the blue.
I'm not dealing with this, guys. I'm going back to the homeless shelter.
I got to say I enjoyed seeing the different shots of the monsters in this movie. The monsters look a lot more clean here, but after fighting a monster and running from Springtrap, they need a place to stay, so they call up their old friends and ask if they can stay for a while. Julio hesitates but eventually agrees to let them stay. So now they have a place to plan a way to take down Springtrap. Meanwhile, a new character named Candy is currently being hired to kill the Fazbears. We find out why later in the movie, but I enjoyed this concept. Obviously, we find out later that it's because Officer Greg wanted all of them dead for killing his son in the hospital shooting. This plot of the movie made stakes much higher for the Fazbears, and contributed well. But anyways, once they get to Julio's house, Puppet explains everything she learned from those books in Season 3. To sum it all up, she explains that killing Springtrap would revive everyone in the world because remnant particles would burst through the airflow after his death. She also explains that his monsters are pieces of Springtrap and that if Springtrap dies, the monsters die too. Then she reveals that the only book that Phantom Foxy didn't get was the one with the location of Super Remnant, and that would be the only way to defeat him. So long story short, the whole goal is to get that book and make the Super Remnant. Also, something about this motherfucker just pisses me the fuck off. His mannerisms, his voice, his stupid ass face, just pointing that out. Anyways, they need to get that last book from Springtrap's base, but his base is probably not safe at all for the Fazbears to be seen there. If Springtrap found them there, he would instantly kill them. So they settle on Julio, who was an old associate of Springtrap, to go look for the book. He makes it to the base only to find the government raiding his base. The government found a countless amount of evidence to convict him of starting the apocalypse, but the government refused to give up evidence. So Julio starts beating them up for it, and gets arrested. Great. I guess there was nothing much he could have done. Back at the house, we are met with a filler scene. It was entertaining though and gave the same good vibes from the Season 2 era, although, the penguin was loud as fuck.
It's Dr. Penguin!
I enjoyed Toy Bonnie bonding with the shark. It gives Toy Bonnie more personality, and I think Toy Bonnie is one of my favorite characters.
I haven't had a best friend in a while. You wanna be my best friend?
Of course I would. I love to.
Cool, man.
Julio gets Peter to bail him out, and then they settle on using the time machine to go in the future to get the book so they don't need to deal with Springtrap. So, Julio and his friends go to the Fazbear's house to get the time machine. They also set out to get their friend's dead body so they can revive them with the remnant they already got. Also, I forgot to mention the fact that Freddy and Foxy will be the ones to get the super remnant. I think that they are honestly the best people to get picked for this. Freddy is the leader and protector of the entire group, and him contributing to defeating Springtrap would definitely help improve his character. Because I must say, Freddy so far in this movie has been honestly good. He's not egotistical or always wanting to be in control. He's been only focusing on the plan to take down Springtrap and save the world. Freddy has finally become one of my favorites. But yeah, Foxy getting the super remnant works too because of the history him and Springtrap have had. I think maybe Puppet being picked for the super remnant would have worked too, since she would probably know how to use it most out of the whole group. But I'm happy with Freddy and Foxy getting back on track. They successfully get the bodies, but before Julio secures the time machine, he encounters Springtrap, who is looking for the Fazbears. Springtrap ends up working with Julio again, and Julio spills the beans about the government being onto Springtrap. Springtrap decides to go after the government, and leaves Julio with the fact that he can walk into his house at any given time. But they end up getting the time machine and bodies in the end, and are ready to set out. Puppet arrives and immediately heads to Springtrap's base to get the book. We get a traveling sequence which I thought was nice. She's traveling through a very green-looking apocalyptic sky and empty roads, which was a good reminder that the apocalypse is still happening during this movie. She arrives in the base only to find Mario and her old friend Stormy from the previous movie, who actually died. Obviously Stormy does not remember her, which is very hard on Puppet, because throughout the third season we've seen her talk about Stormy and how she felt about him. I think the concept of him not remembering her because it was a different point in time was great, but the book is stolen, and Mario and Stormy team up with her to help her find out who stole it and where the book is. So while Mario helps with fingerprints, Stormy and Puppet have time to catch up. They ask each other questions about each other's timelines and bond. It's obvious to Puppet that Stormy is not going to remember her, so she tries making friends with him again. They still have a strong connection. I enjoy this duo. It's for sure a highlight throughout this time adventure. So far, I'm loving this whole plot. They turn the fingerprints into a D&A place, and wait a day for the results. Mario is constantly busy, which means he's up to something. Stormy goes back to his job, so that leaves the viewer with a pretty boring couple of minutes. We see Puppet race toy cars, and go for a random park or walk. Luckily, this wasn't a long scene, but I just felt that we didn't need it. But the results come back and they set out to go get Dr. Penguin, who is a scammer friend in the present timeline. On the way there, we are met with a heartfelt scene of Puppet and Stormy having a drink. This is a callback to the previous movie where they always promised each other to get a drink, but it never happened due to Stormy's death.
I'll get that drink for you, Stormy.
So that just made this scene much more enjoyable, and I really liked that it was added. But they break into Dr. Penguin's house, and end up not finding the book. Apparently, Mario had it the whole time and framed Dr. Penguin, who is apparently his arch-nemesis. I couldn't say I saw this coming. I think this plot twist made sense, but also didn't make sense. Like, why would Mario spend months framing Dr. Penguin for some sort of revenge on him, instead of just taking the book and working on getting the super remnant? And then once he would have his powers, just get revenge on him then. Why do all this? But then, he flees to the airport, and they are running out of time. Instead of quickly getting to Dr. Penguin's helicopter, Puppet decides to go a fucking hour out of her way to get a fucking retard to do a job that Dr. Penguin could have done. This made no sense to me either. This plot seems to have run into some issues, but nonetheless, it picked up in the end. The helicopter and plane chase scene was done well, especially being that they went on a real plane to film. The ending was very quickly paced, and Mario accepted defeat right away. It was an interesting plot to say the least. There was a lot of enjoyable moments and overall it was fun. The first scene we get is Pigpatch talking about politics with Freddy, and we come to learn that Freddy is a Biden supporter. Not sure if this was needed, but it's interesting. Then, they encounter Candy for the first time and are required to run from her, as she is about to kill them. One of the highlights of the movie was this chase scene in my opinion. I thought everything was executed well for this scene and it makes it one of the best chase scenes out of the whole series. Although, what the actual hell was Phantom Foxy doing here? Was he trying to run into the fucking tree on purpose? Anyways, they eventually run into Gumball and Darwin. These characters are apparently their old bullies in school, and they have an underground dungeon ready for them, all for revenge on the Fazbears for them snitching. Obviously this is a silly concept, but I'm all for it. We had the silly concept of Mario breaking Bendy's leg in the fingerals, so this was honestly a fun time watching this. The whole prison sequence was pretty cool, but I'm tired of characters waiting hours or even days for one character to get back before they start their mission. The scammer crew could have easily gone and saved the Fazbears without Puppet, but they decided to wait a day for her. But long story short, they break out the Fazbears, and Candy is now on their good side, but they are immediately met with trouble again. Candy has pushed her limit on not killing the Fazbears, so the cartel takes them all to the desert to kill every single one of them. I thought the desert scene was honestly cool as hell. I like finding out that Greg is actually the cartel leader and is doing this for his son. Who knew a hospital shooting would contribute so much to this series? But Toy Bonnie ends up getting the upper hand and kills the whole cartel. I like the fact that Toy Bonnie is the dumbest character, but made one of the smartest moves out of everyone. Great scene. So, the government made it very public that Springtrap is the one that started the monster apocalypse. Springtrap decides to go back for revenge and kill the president and her bodyguard. He then proceeds to bash and crush Donald's skull until he dies. I think Donald got done dirty in this scene. He didn't deserve such a gruesome death, and the president dies the same way as well. This scene was played out well. And then Springtrap makes his own news announcement that the Fazbears started the apocalypse and uses the hospital shooting to gaslight the world into thinking it was true. I think overall this makes sense for Springtrap to do this. This makes Springtrap one step closer in his plan to kill the Fazbears. Now the Fazbears have the map to find the Super Remnant, so they set out and travel to their destination. On the way there, they stumble upon a cabin and a lake with a boat dock. This works well because these guys have been stuck in their homes for over a year after losing the biggest fight in the world, so this was a nice escape from reality for them. And conveniently, the Super Remnant recipe was in the same vicinity of the lake, but Puppet is going to need to research where and how to find the ingredients, so they stay in the cabin next to the lake so Puppet can research, and they can take some cool-off time before the big battle. They have a roommate as well. His name is Freddy Fazbear, and he also broke into this vacation home. He seems like a chill guy, but we finally get to see the scene of Freddy and Vanny by the lake. The scene makes more sense with context, because now they have the recipe and are miles closer to killing Springtrap. I like this scene, because we get to see these two bond again. I think it works with them just being friends. Beautiful scene. Puppet finishes her research, but they are met with bad news. They find out they are wanted for, quote-unquote, starting the apocalypse. This makes their mission harder because now they have to go out in public to get ingredients with a price on their heads, so they are going to have to try their best. This honestly was perfect for the story, because it makes the stakes way higher, but that concludes their time at the cabin, because they go on their separate ways to collect ingredients. That was honestly a fun time and I enjoyed this part of the movie a lot. Freddy's team is going to have to work a lot harder to get their ingredient, which is actually the body of the doctor that revived Springtrap. They face the public eye, and actually get spotted by Freddy's favorite people, the Barnabys, only to find out that their kid was in the same hospital that was shot up by Freddy and his friends, meaning they killed their daughter, so that, on top of them already thinking they ended the world, made things personal with the Barnabys, which causes them to want revenge and kill Freddy. So this forces Freddy to kill the Barnabys. The reason I thought this was good is because it was interesting to see Freddy having to sacrifice his heroes to save everyone else. This looks completely bad on Freddy, so the stakes rise even higher, because if he doesn't win this fight, then the Fazbears are done for and everything goes to shit. But overall, this was a good section before the final battle.
Wait a minute, we're plushies?
I'll straight out say this, I think Mr. X making 3 of the easiest games of all time, the only thing they have to do to get the chicken crystal is dumb as hell. What's the point? But after they beat the 3 easy-ass games, they immediately defeat Mr. X, and it's over just like that. I'm not saying this part was bad, but this was a part of the movie where I started to feel drag. I will say that I did not feel like the movie was dragging at any other point of the movie, and everything else felt right. But this Mr. X scenes were just a bit unnecessary and they were mildly entertaining. So far, that's one of my only complaints of the movie. The movie is going great so far though. It's almost here. The Fazbears all collect their ingredients and are ready to make the Super Remnant and defeat Springtrap. But before they arrive at the scammer's house, Springtrap is already there. He claimed himself that he would come into their home whenever he pleased since he is working with Julio. Great foreshadowing from earlier. But the Fazbears come in. They were so ready to make the Super Remnant, but it looked like that wouldn't be happening, because Springtrap and the Fazbears are now face to face again, and they have no way to defeat him without having the Super Remnant made. The Fazbears go running, and before Springtrap chases after, he kills Julio for betraying his trust. So far, I thought this scene was playing out very well. And after Springtrap goes after the Fazbears, we find Puppet hiding and waiting for Springtrap to leave, so she could revive everyone and make Super Remnant. Holy shit, this is really cool. They are all running for their lives, but absolutely have no match for Springtrap with no powers. Phantom Foxy reveals the fact that Puppet is inside, so Springtrap nukes the whole house. This was looking like the end. This was one of the best scenes in the whole series.
Goodbye, everybody. Springtrap, just kill us. We have nothing left.
Goodbye, everybody.
The music, the characters actually thinking it was the end. I even thought it was the end for them. It was a powerful scene. But then by far my favorite scene of the whole series comes. Someone throws a rock and then it's revealed that it's actually Frostbear.
Hey guys, how's it hanging? Yes! 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 Puppet revived everyone before the explosion! Yes! I'm Frostbear!
Why? And then we see everyone else come back. What a great fucking scene, man. Puppet did all of that before the explosion. What a goat. The Foxy reveal was great too. And now, things are ready to go down. Freddy and Foxy have the Super Remnant, and the scammers and rest of the Fazbears have guns ready to kill the Fingrels that Springtrap sent out. To sum everything up, I really loved this battle, as if Freddy and Foxy fighting Springtrap with Super Remnant wasn't cool enough. Just seeing the whole group again throughout the battle and everyone reuniting was so great to see. This battle actually lasted too. The Fingrels Springtrap battle only lasted like 2 minutes, but this one actually had stakes and was just great. I don't really have any complaints for how this battle played out. It came down to the last minute, and Freddy was knocked out, so it was up to Foxy, and then it happened. Springtrap was defeated. After so long, it finally happened, and I was very happy that Foxy was the one to finish it all. What a great conclusion to Springtrap. I can't stop thinking about how well everything ended up. This whole thing played out so good, and then light shines through Springtrap. We see everyone in the whole world back to life, even Mickey, who I haven't seen since the 2nd season. The world was saved. The entire group reunited and went in for a group hug. I can't stress enough on how perfect this ended up being. Just wow. A week later, There's a celebration with the whole town congratulating the Fazbears for saving the entire world. Everyone was so happy and friendly with each other. It just felt so nice. The movie ended off with one last shot of the Fazbears, after Freddy gave a narration reflecting back on the entire series, which really emphasizes that this is really the conclusion. And then the movie ends. Wow, just wow, what a great conclusion. They seriously pulled this movie off great, from the character developments with characters like Freddy, Toy Bonnie, and more, and the amazing second half of the movie. I would feel wrong to focus on any negative that this movie may have brought. I had a few issues at certain points with the movie, but they weren't that big of a deal. I had a good time with this movie, and it is 100% the best project on the Andrew Plush channel. Overall, for Andrew Plush standards, I'm giving this movie a 9 out of 10. Thank you all for watching. I can't wait to see more content from this series, because at the end we see the purple prisoner guy. He's shaping up to be another villain. Can't wait. See you guys next time. Bye.